Okay, we are picking up on the last line on Yud Gimel Amud Beis. We are starting with, okay, so right now we're in the middle of the story that Haman and Achashverosh, Haman had just told Achashverosh that there's this one nation that you could wipe them out. So he's having the conversation with him. So Achashverosh replies now to Haman. Keep the money, because Haman had offered to give Achashverosh money. He says, keep the money, you can keep the silver, and you can do with the nation whatever you want to do. So Amar Rababa, turning now to Yudal and Amud Aleph, what's the comparison to the story that happened with Haman and Achashverosh? That you have two people. One of them had like a mound of dirt in the middle of his field. And the other one had a ditch in his field. So Baal Charetz Amar, Mi Tenli Tal Zeh B'Damim, who's going to give me a dirt that I would pay for? I would pay to have dirt so I could come in and fill up the ditch that I have in my field. And Baal Tal Amar, Mi Tenli Charetz Zeh B'Damim, who's going to give me who would give me a ditch because I have this mound of dirt right now sitting in my field? Who would give it to me so that I could fill it up? So so after a few days, these two guys bump into each other. So Amarlo Baal Charetz, the Baal Tal, so the owner of the ditch said to the owner of the guy that had the mound, Marchali Telacha, sell me your mound of dirt that you have. Amarlo Tolos Bechinam, take it for free, Alavai. In other words, I just want to get rid of it, so go ahead and take it. So the same thing happened. Haman was coming to Achashverosh and he's saying to him, well, he actually didn't name the Jews. He didn't name which nation he wanted to wipe out. He says there's a nation that I want to kill. And Achashverosh is saying, I'm going to give you money for it. And Achashverosh says, no, we have the same thing in mind. Don't worry about it. Like we both want the same ends. So go ahead, keep your money, because in the end, I want to kill the Jews also. So go ahead and you can take care of it. So the Megillah continues, that the king took off his ring, and he gave it to Haman. So Amar Rababa Bar Kahana Gedola Hasaras Tabas Yoser Me'arbaim Mishmona Neviim V'Sheva Nevios. That the removal of the ring that Achashverosh did, that he gave it to Haman, who's now empowered to do whatever he wants, that had more power for the Bnei Yisrael to do tshuva than 48 Nevi'im and 7 Nevios. So first of all, because all of these Nevi'im were not able to get the Jews to go back to do tshuva when they did something wrong. But when Achashverosh took off the ring and he gave it to Haman, all of a sudden the Bnei Yisrael they were all ba'achdus, they all bonded together, and they started doing tshuva. So the rest of this Amud is going to, for the most part, going to be saying who the 7 Nevios are. It doesn't go through who the 48 Nevi'im are. Rashi actually names. He goes through and he names them. If you look on the right hand side, he names who they were, and he gets to 46, and then he says, and I don't know who the other two are, which is like it's very unusual. You don't normally see Rashi saying that. But Rashi says, if you look at the last line on the left hand side. Right. He says over there, I don't know who the two are. So anyway, so Rashi says you know who they are. So anyway, so now the Gemara says, so what he did now did more for the tshuva movement than all the Nevi'im did. So now that we're talking about it, so what did he say? So the Gemara says, my Darish, what was the Nevi'im, they decided that they're going to create the Megillah. Where did they come up with this thing that they were supposed to be writing a Megillah? I mean, yes, Esther said that we should write it down, but where do they know that it was okay to add it? So Amar Rab Chia Bar Avin Amar Rab Yeshua ben Karcha. They made it like a Kal V'chomer. Uma Abdus L'Cheiros Amin Shira. If when we were in Egypt, when we went from slavery to freedom, we say Shira, we say Halal on Pesach. So for sure we should say that we were going to be saved from death. We were going to go from life to death, and now we were saved from that. For sure we should be able to say Shira. So therefore they instituted the Megillah, and the Megillah is supposed to be the praise that we're giving to Hashem for saving us. So Gemara asks, Ihachi halanami nemo. So if it's so great, if they made a Kal V'chomer, and they said that just like when you go from slavery to freedom, you say halal, so too you should do it when you're saved from death. So why don't we actually say halal? Why do we just read the Megillah? So the Gemara answers, because you don't say halal on a nes that took place outside of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore you wouldn't say halal. So the Gemara asks, Yitzias Mitzrayim Dinesh B'chutz La'aretz Heichei Amrin and Shira. So what are you talking about? The whole Yitzias Mitzrayim was an ace that took place outside of Eretz Yisrael, and we do say halal on for that. So why is it you're saying that we're not going to say it for Purim because the ace took place outside of Eretz Yisrael? We did it for Mitzrayim. Gemara answers, Kedetanya. The answer is until the Bnei Yisrael came into Eretz Yisrael. So then, wherever there was a nace that took place, you would say Shira, even if it was outside of Eretz Yisrael. Once the Bnei Yisrael entered Eretz Yisraal, so now you no longer would say Shira for a nace that took place outside of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, the nace of Purim, we read the Megillah, but we don't say Hallel. So the Megillah is going to be the praise. And we're going to see that. A different answer about why we don't say Hallel on Purim. Rav Nachman Amar, Kriyas Zu Halela, that reading the Megillah is the Hallel. That's what we're doing. The whole story of the Megillah, by going through the story and seeing all the miracles that took place, that is the Hallel that we're doing. Rava gives a different answer. Bishlam Ahasam, over there by when we left Mitzrayim, so we could say Hallelu Avdi Hashem. We could say that the servants of Hashem should give praise. Why? Below Avdi Paro, because we're no longer servants of Paro. But over here in the story of Megillah Esther, Hallelu Avdi Hashem, we would say again Hallelu Avdi Hashem, below Avdi Achashverosh, Akati Avdi Achashverosh, and we're still servants of Achashverosh. We got to remember that even though Purim was a great nace that took place, and that there was a salvation that took place, that were great miracles that happened. But at the end of the day, when the story of Purim is over, they went back and Achashverosh was still in power, and he was still the king. So it wasn't like they had this freedom. I mean, again, it wasn't like that Mordechai was very well respected, he was loved by everyone, but they didn't have this freedom. They were still avadim to Achashverosh, so therefore we don't say Hallel on Purim, because we're still servants to Achashverosh. So Gemara says, Bein l'Rav Nachman Kasha. Still, we have a question because both of them say that you're supposed to be saying Hallel. V'Tanya lo hokshu kol haratzos somer shira, that you're not able to say shira once they went into Eretz Yisrael. We said you're not able to say shira, you're not able to say Hallel. So how are you able to do it? Gemara says, again by reading the Megillah. So Gemara answers, Kivan shagalu chazru l'chsherin harishon. That what you're right. Before we came to Eretz Yisrael, any nace that took place outside of Eretz Yisrael, we would say Hallel. Once we reached Eretz Yisrael, until we were exiled from there, so any nace that took place outside of Eretz Yisrael, we would not say Shira. But then once the Bnei Yisrael went into Galus, once they were kicked out, so then at that point already any nace that takes place, you would be able to say Hallel, and therefore that's why in Megillah we do read the Megillah, which is a form of Hallel. So the Gemara before, and again now we're going to go through the Nevi'im. The Gemara before said that there were 48 Nevi'im and there were 7 Nevi'os. So the Gemara asks, V'su leka, were there only 48 and 7? V'haksiv, it says in the pasuk, V'hi ish echa min haramasayim tzofim, that there was a man from Ramasayim tzofim, and that's talking about Elkanah, and it says that he was called that he was echa min Ramasayim tzofim shenisnav lehem lishol. He was one of 200 neviim that gave nevuah for Klal Yisrael. So right there, and that was only up to that point. So you see that there were over 200 neviim that took place. So where do you come up with this 48 number that you say there were only 48 neviim? My answer is, Mia Tuvahavi, yes, there were many more than 48, as we see, Kedetanya, Harbi Nevi'im Amdu Lahem Yisrael, Kiflaim Kiyotzi Mitzrayim. There were many more Nevi'im that came out, double the amount of people. If we had 600,000 people that left Mitzrayim, it was 1.2 million Nevi'im, which again may be a bit of an exaggeration, but the Gemara is saying that there was double the amount of people that left Mitzrayim that were in the Nevi'im. So why do we say there were only 48? And the Gemara says, if you had a nevuah that was given, that it wasn't just a message for now, but it was a message that was supposed to be everlasting. They gave a prophecy, and it was supposed to be a message that was supposed to be passed on from generation to generation, so that they counted the nevuah. But if it was just a nevuah that took place at that time, but it wasn't something that was necessary for future generations, then they were nevi'im, but it's not counting them as the 48. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, and this is just taking a little bit of a tangent. Adam haba mishtei ramos shetzofo zu. When it talks about, when the pasuk says that there was a man that came from Masayim Tzofim, what is that referring to? It means that it was a man who came from 2 mountains that were facing each other. Rav Yochanan Omer, Adam shaba mibnei Adam she'omdim berumo shalom. There was a person who came from his ancestors were people that stood at the height of the world. What is that referring to? Uman inhu b'nei Korach. Dichsiv B'nei Korach lamesu. It says in the pasuk the B'nei Korach lamesu. Tana mishum Rabbeinu malkum nisbatzer lahem begehenim v'amdu alav. That the B'nei Korach, right when the whole thing with Moshe was going down, and it was, and they did tshuva. So the Medrash says that the ground swallowed them up, but there was a ledge that was there that was higher up than the rest of Gehenna. So the Bnei Korach stand on this ledge, and so that means that they were higher up because they're standing on this high ledge, so they're not, however you understand that, in the pits of Gehenna, in the depth of it, but they're standing on a high ledge. And there's some Medrash that says that once a year, if you go to the spot that the Bnei Korach that Korach and Hadassah were swallowed, you can hear once a year. You can hear Moshe Emes V'Saraso Emes. That they're saying that they admitted that they were wrong and that Moshe was really, he was true. So anyway, so that was just often a bit on a tangent. The Gemara says now Sheven Nevios Ma'inin. Who are the seven Nevios? So we had the seven women: Sarah, Miriam, Devorah, Chana, Abigail, Chulda, Esther. Those seven, and now the Gemara is going to show how each one of them, at one point or another, they gave Nevuah. Sarah, where do we see that she was a Navi? Avi Milka Avi Yiska. What does that mean? Yiska zu Sarah, that Yiska was Sarah. Yiska, why was she called that? Shesachsa Baruch HaKodesh, because she saw with Ruach HaKodesh, she was able to see things. Shnamar, Kol Asher Tomar Lecha Sarah Shema B'Kola, that when Sarah was saying something to Avram Avinu about Hagar, so Hashem says to Hagar that you should listen to whatever he said, that whatever she says, because what she's doing, she's saying Baruch HaKodesh. And the Davar Acher, Yiska Shakol Sochem B'Yafir. A different reason why she was called Yiska was because everyone was like enamored. They stared at her. She was, again, the Gemara says that Sarah was one of the most beautiful women that ever lived. So under that Sarah, they would just gaze at her because of her beauty. Miriam, how do we know that Miriam was a Navi? It says that in Parshas B'Shalach, my bar mitzvah parsha, it says that Miriam the Navi took the cymbals that she had brought out with her after the Shira, and she started playing the cymbals. It says that she was the sister of Aaron. So the Gemara asks, "V'lo achas Moshe?" She wasn't the sister of Moshe. Like if you could say that you're the sister of Moshe or Aaron, no, Aaron was great, but Moshe is even greater. So you say that you're the sister of Moshe. Why did leave that out? Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rav Shahaisim Isnabi Kishi Achos Aaron, because she was a Navi already from the time when she was the sister of Aaron before Moshe was born, which means she was only 6 years old when Moshe was born. So it means that she gave Nevuah when she was 6. Because what was the Nevuah? V'omeres Asira Imi Shetel Ben Sheashias Yisrael, that my mother is destined to give birth to the person who's going to save Klal Yisrael. When Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the whole house filled up with light. So Amar Aviha v'nashkal Rosha. So afterwards, Yishai stood up and he kissed her and he kissed her on the forehead and he said, Amar La Biti Niskaimot Nevuah Sayach, that your Nevuah came true. That your Nevuah came true now. So he was kissing her because he said that the Nevuah came true. So what happened? The kivan shel shlichu yar, and then when they were throwing him into the river. So Amar Avio tavcha rosha. So then her father got up and hit her on the head, and he said to her, Amar labiti heichen nevuah seich. What happened to your nevuah? You said that this baby is going to be the leader of Klal Yisrael, and now he's going to be drowned in the river. That she went at a distance to know. She didn't know. She wanted to know what was going to happen to Nevuah. She never doubted that Moshe Rabbeinu was going to be the leader. She just wanted to see what was the nace that was going to take place after Moshe Rabbeinu was put into the water. What was the nace and how it was going to be saved? So you see that she had Nevuah from the fact that she prophesied about Moshe. Devara, how do we know Devara was? Udvara Isha Neviah, Eshes Lapidos. That she was. It says in the pasuk she was an Navi. I guess it's the Haftarah from Parshas Shalach, and it says she was the wife of Lapidos. So first of all, we see she was a Navi because it says Udvara Isha Neviah. So what does it mean? Ma Eshes Lapidos. What are we saying that she was the wife of Lapidos? Shahaisa Osa Psilos Hamikdash, that she used to make wicks for the Beis Hamikdash. And again, still speaking about Dvar, it says that she would sit under Tomer, which was the palm tree. Why did she sit there? Why did she sit there when people came to her for judgments? Because she was concerned about Yichud. So therefore, if you look at a palm tree, the branches are very high up. So there's not a problem of yichud. So anyone who who had a judgment that they would come to her, and she would be able to figure out what it was. And she sat under the palm branch, so there wouldn't be any shalos of yichud. Davar ach, another reason why she sat there, ma tamer zeh ein lo ela eiv lechad, that just like a palm tree only has one heart, which Rashi says means that when the sap comes out, the sap goes straight to the trunk of the tree. It doesn't go out to the branches. So Av Yisrael Shabbos Hadar Lo Hayam Ela Leiv Echad Lavi and Shabbat Shemaim. The Bnei Yisrael at that time they only had one heart that was going to Hashem. Next Navi, Chana, how do we know that Chana was a Navi? D'chsiv, V'atispal Chana V'tomer, Alat Slibi B'Hashem, Rama Karni B'Hashem, that my heart goes up to Hashem, is very happy, and my Karen, my horn is also going up to Hashem. Rama Karni, V'lo Rama Pachi. It only says that my horn is going up to Hashem, but not Pachi, which was the flask of oil. So what's that referring to? That David Shlomo Shenimshchu B'Karen, David and Shlomo, who there's two ways that they could have made a king. They could either do it through the horn that they would pour the oil, or they could do it by doing this flask of oil that they had. So David and Shlomo, who were done with the horn of oil, so their melucha was everlasting, was very long. Shaul v'Yehu shenimshchu b'pach, but Shaul and Yehu were done with this flask of oil. Lo nimshcha malchus, and their malchus was very, very short. So that was the nevuah that she gave, that she was able to foresee that they were going to have a short melucha as opposed to David and Shlomo. And the Gemara says, "Ein kadosh kashem kiyem biltecha." Amar Rabbi Yehuda bar Menashia, Al tzirki biltecha ela levalosecha. Don't say that it means biltecha but levalosecha. What does that mean? Shelo kamidas hakadosh baruch hu midas bas v'dam. That Hashem is not like people. How? Because midas bas v'dam ma'isi yad mivalanoso. The way of a person is that his work outlives him. If I sit and make a beautiful table and it's sturdy, that table's going to live on, is going to be there long after I'm gone. But Hakadosh Baruch Hu mivala ma'asav yadu, but Hakadosh Baruch Hu outlives all of the works that He created. There's no rock like Hashem. What is that referring to? Ain't Sayer Kelokenu. There's no former. There's no one that creates like Hashem. There's no artist. What is that referring to? Adam Tzartzura Al Gabi Kosel. If you make a drawing on the wall, so you're not able to put a spirit in there. You're not able to put the neshama. You're not able to put the intestines and all the organs of the body. But Hashem is able. I'm sorry, I skipped. He's able to make one form inside of another form. And he's able to make that inside of our body that we have inside our skin. We have all the organs. We have the neshama. Next, Abigail. How do we know that she was a navi? D'chsiv. That's the one. This one piece. D'chsiv. We read it. It says that the story is talking about that David HaMelech had sent men to Naval, which was her husband, and he was asking for provisions. He wanted to get food. So Naval spoke very disparagingly. Thank you. About David, he says, "Who is this Ben Yishai that I should be doing anything for him? I'm not going to give you guys anything to eat." And they come back to David HaMelech. He got very upset. And he says, "Okay, he's more b'malchus, so we're going to kill him." So what happened? So that she was going down by the way of the mountain, by the cessor of the mountains. Why does it say that? It says from the mountain. What's it talking about? That from the cessor of the har? So that she was coming to ask David HaMelech a question that comes from the parts of the body that are hidden. Meaning she was coming to ask him a question about Dam Nida. Not that she took blood and she showed it to him to find out whether if the person's tummy. So Amar Allah, so David says to her, "V'chimar and dam b'layla." Do we show blood at night? Because the halach is that if a person has a mara, you're not there, and you take it to the Rav, they don't look at it at night. They say they need to use the light of the day, of the sun, to be able to see it. So we look at night to look at a mara. So Amar Lo, so she said back to him, we don't do capital crimes at night either. So what are you sitting here and paskening that novels that my husband's chayiv misa? It's not the nighttime. So it's nighttime. You can't do that. So Amar Allah, he said to her, turning to Yudalid, Mard b'malchus, who he's avilot tzarich limidiyanya. He's a Mard b'malchus, so he doesn't have to be judged. And Rashi explains it doesn't mean that he doesn't have to be judged. Of course, he had to be judged, but meaning that there were certain things that you could kind of pass on when you were doing it. So Amrlo Adayin Shaul Chaim Shaul is still the king, so therefore you're not the king yet. So he had a reason why he said who's. In other words, he's not Mard b'malchus. He may have spoken about you in a disrespectful manner, but he's not a Mard b'malchus. Where it says Amrlo. that you came to me with damim. So again, we're just going to finish up two more lines. Damim tartim mashmas mashma, two things. She revealed her leg, and it showed that it was that, and he went 3 miles because of it, or 3 parsos to be able to see her, because he was very. She was very beautiful. He saw the leg, and he desired her. So Amar La Hashmili, he said, "Listen to me," which was really meant, "I want you to have relations with me." So Amar La Lo Siyazos L'Chalafuka. This shouldn't be the way that you're going to fall. I'm an Eishasish. You're not able to do it. And again, the Gemara, the Mefarshim explained he wasn't going to have a relationship with her. He knew that she was an Eishasish, but he also knew that they were going to be killing Naval. So she said, "Zos." There was another one. There was another one. She had nevuah, and we'll finish with this. That she had a nevuah. That was it. She said there's going to be another thing, which was the story of Basheva, Maskana Hachahavi, and that was the way that it was. That she did see the story of Bathsheba. So that's how she was a navi. We will stop here and continue tomorrow night.